In some cases is the pain that comes along with it for a lot of people. I want to be a normal 8th grader. Well, I have some good news and I have some bad news. Hey guys, it's Greta, and in today's video I'm going to be telling you all about my scoliosis story and experience. So if you don't know what scoliosis is, it's basically a condition where your spine grows curved instead of straight up and down. I'll show you a picture of my x-ray somewhere on the screen so you can kind of get an idea of what I mean by that. And yeah, so as you can see, my spine is curved. Scoliosis is a very common condition that a lot of people have, and it just sort of varies in each case. Some are more severe and some are just more mild, meaning that some curves are really slight and then some are more drastic. And with that comes different treatments and things needed for that individual person. So today I thought I would share with you my individual experience for those of you who have scoliosis and want someone to relate to, or if you're just curious. Typically doctors will check your spine every time you go in for your doctor appointment each year. And I think it was in like 4th grade when I really remember them like identifying it as more of like a problem, and I started having checkups like throughout the year, like additional little appointments where they would just measure my spine to make sure it was, the curve itself wasn't getting any worse. And so they were just sort of keeping track of it. There really wasn't anything they could do at that point because the curve was so mild, and it's really not a problem. So eventually, the summer before going into 8th grade, the doctor looked at my spine and measured it and sort of was like, this, you need to get an x-ray at this point because the curve looked as if it had gotten significantly larger. So I got my x-ray done and I went to a specialist, like a spinal specialist, I guess, and she looked at my x-rays that I had taken and basically said that I needed a back brace. So at this point, that was like what I did not want to hear, but she told me and I just sort of accepted it in the moment, even though I just wanted to cry in the inside. If you don't know what a back brace is, I'll put a picture somewhere on the screen. I don't have mine anymore, thankfully. But I'll explain. So basically, it's like this piece of plastic that wraps around your body and straps. Mine was called the Boston brace, and it's strapped in the back. So basically it has padding in the inside that pushes your spine so that it's straight. And the idea with the brace is not that it will straighten what's already curved, but it will straighten any more growth that you have as long as you're actually wearing it. So the curve that I have, I still have today. That's never really going to go away. But the additional growth that I got when I was wearing the brace is straight. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Basically, that's what the doctor said, and at this point I would like to say too that I have never had back pain, and back pain is like a huge component to scoliosis. It's what makes it very severe in some cases, is the pain that comes along with it for a lot of people. So I feel so lucky that I really don't get any back pain. Occasionally, the side where it's like the bent part of my spine is pushing up on the muscle, sometimes that'll feel like a little tense, but it's nothing that I can't just like sort of stretch out. So that wasn't a problem for me, and it still isn't. So I'm really, really grateful for that. So the doctor said that I had to get the brace, and I got in the car and I just started crying. And it really just for the reason that like I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't know what people would think of me wearing it. I was going into 8th grade, so finishing up middle school. I was still in just regular school at this point. I wasn't doing online. And I was a little upset and frustrated. But my mom said, like, this is your body. You are the one who's going to have to wear it, so you choose. I knew that I wanted to do it for myself. I didn't want to feel horrible down the line when I maybe would have back pain if I hadn't had the brace, or I just didn't want to regret that decision. So I went ahead and we went for the brace because that's what was the best option for me, and that's what the doctor thought. So we went with the brace, and a little bit after that appointment with the specialist, we went to see a doctor that actually made the braces. So that doctor was super nice, and he made me feel a lot more comfortable about the brace itself, and made it seem less of like a big deal, because when you're a middle school girl, it's just like things like that, like in the long term looking back at it, it's like, oh, that's not too bad. Like there are people with a lot worse issues, but you know, you kind of get caught up in your head, and it is a big deal in the moment, and that's okay to feel like it is a big deal. So anyway, I got measured for the brace, and some people will get like a molding, almost like a cast thing that they like, I don't really know, that they like, it's basically like a molding, that's how I would describe it, but I did not get that. I just got the measurements taken, like around this general area, and he made the brace for me. So it was probably like close to a month later that I went back and I actually got the brace. I remember walking into that room, and the brace was just sitting on like the doctor like table examination thingy, you know what I mean? And I was just like, oh crap. It was a lot smaller than I thought it would be, and it wasn't as like ugh as I thought it would be. So I put it on and I got it fitted, and the first time I put it on, it did kind of feel like the air was being squeezed out of me, but it wasn't as bad as I thought. I don't want to scare anyone who's getting a brace, because it really is not that bad. It's just something that you have to deal with, and it's not fun, but it's not the end of the world. For me, at least. Obviously, everyone's experience is different. So I got the brace fitted, and I took it home, and that's when I had to start wearing it. So you start with wearing it for like a half hour, and you work up to larger increments of time. I would just do it like a couple hours during the day, and then eventually I moved to wearing it at nighttime, because that was like a big span of time that I was able to wear it. And I found that wearing it at nighttime was actually easier, because it wasn't that uncomfortable for me, and it was just fine. So I was really happy about that too, because I was like, oh, now I have to wear that when I sleep too. It's like, come on. But then finally came the day where I had to wear it to school. Prior to wearing it to school, I had told my closest friends that I was getting it, just so I didn't feel like awkward. Obviously, you know, you just tell your friends those things. So I told my closest friends, but I didn't feel like the need to tell everyone, because honestly I just kind of wanted to keep it to myself. And I looked for different clothes that I thought would suit it best and sort of conceal it. And I also got out of a gym class I was going to take that year, because like major things like having to take it off and on in school, and I was like, I do not want to deal with that. So my mom was able to talk to my counselor, and I was able to just have like a study hour thing instead, which was actually really fun. And so yeah, I didn't have any gym classes. And if you have a back brace, take advantage of that. If you don't want to do a gym class because of it, then just don't. If you have your parents talk most of the time, you can get out of those things. Obviously not in every case, but it's worth trying, I guess, is what I would say. And so yeah, I ended up wearing to school. I don't even really remember the first day I wore to school very vividly, which is probably good. I remember just sort of feeling a little uncomfortable and like self-conscious, but no one pointed it out or really noticed it, so it wasn't really that bad. And that's sort of how it went throughout the year. I just sort of felt a little extra self-conscious. Didn't like want people to like touch me or anything, which is just how I kind of am anyway. So it wasn't that much of a difference, I guess. The year went on fine. There were a couple of people that I would just sort of tell, you know, if I felt like I needed to. And I still did dance classes and all those types of things. And for dance, I didn't wear my brace, but I was still able to do all those things. So throughout the year, I would have checkups with the spinal specialist. I don't know what the exact name is, but I would have checkups with her, and she would just sort of keep looking at my spine, go over how long I was wearing the brace, just sort of keep track of those things, and it was all good news there. My spine never got any bigger, the curve itself didn't get any bigger, and I was wearing my brace all the time, as much as I could. So to give you sort of like an idea of what that was like, or like the amount of time I was wearing it, I wore it through the night, and then I would wake up and I would take it off and get ready for the day, and then I would get it back on before school. Obviously, I would wear it all day at school, and then when I would come home, I would take it off and just sort of stretch out, because it's like wearing that all day, you need to stretch out a little. So I took it off when I got home, I would stretch out, have a snack or whatever, and just give myself a little break. and then I would put it back on until dinner time, and then I would just take it off, have dinner, and then I would shower, and then I'd put it back on before bed. And then I remember I would always take it off like right before I went to bed, stretch out, and then put it back on again, and then just sort of start the whole thing over. And I had these like special tank tops. I think the brand was called like Hope's Closet or something. I'll leave a link below if you have scoliosis and a brace and you're looking for something. Those were really good. They kept me from feeling like sticky and sweaty, and yeah, I didn't really have too much of an issue with that, but I think that those tank tops really helped. So those were great. Along with just the checkups, I think I only went to one physical therapy appointment, honestly, because they were like extremely expensive. Went to one of those, and I just sort of learned some stretches and strengthening moves, like exercises, that's the word, just to sort of keep my core strong. They weren't things that would straighten my spine, because what's done is done. My spine is curved, and that's how it is. Stretches and exercises just helped keep those muscles from being like really tight, and helped to strengthen my core and my shoulders, like my shoulder blades and stuff, just so that like you don't lose any strength when you're in the brace, because the brace itself is like holding you up, so you're not using your core as much. So you need to like additionally do that strength. And I still do that, or you need to like additionally be adding to your strength because of that, and just because it's good for your spine in general. So I still do all those exercises, and I try to do that every day, and the stretches and stuff, and I do yoga. Just try to do that to keep everything in check. That's all of the physical therapy. And with having the brace throughout that year in general, I feel like more than anything, I would just sort of feel a little down about it, and I would just sort of be like, oh, why me? Why do I have to be the one wearing this? I just want to be a normal 8th grader, which now looking back on it is kind of like ridiculous. Like, not ridiculous, but it's like there are just so many worse things and so many worse scenarios that could have happened to me, and that's what I had to deal with, and that's totally okay looking back at it. And if you are going through this right now, it's totally okay to feel down about it every once in a while, because our feelings matter. And if you feel down or self-conscious, that's okay, and you'll work through it and you'll get through it, and you can't just sort of like, you can't say that it doesn't matter, because it does, and your feelings do matter. So I know that doesn't really make any sense, but I'm just trying to say that there are worse things, but you can't discount how the brace, the whole experience of having scoliosis will affect you. If that makes sense. Sorry if I'm like making no sense. But eventually it came to be summertime, so I got the brace in around September, and then in July I went to what would be my final appointment. So I went and I got an x-ray actually of my hand, because there's like something in your hand that when it's closed, it means that you're done growing, and then if it is still open, you still have more growth. My mom's talking. My doctor came into the room and she said, well, I have some good news and I have some bad news. So the bad news was that I wasn't going to grow anymore, and I'm pretty short. I'm like 5'3", but I have grown a little bit since then. Anyway, I'll get to that in a second. So basically she said, you're not going to be growing anymore, but the good news is that you don't have to wear your brace anymore. And I was like, oh, thank you, I don't have to wear this thing anymore. She said that I didn't have to wear it anymore. She was like, do you want to keep it? And I was like, no. So they threw it out there at the office, and I was like, bye-bye. So I don't have it. I promise you, I really do have scoliosis. I have my x-ray to prove it. I just did not want to keep that thing around. And now it's been like 3 years? I think coming up on 3 years since I've gotten it off. I'm pretty sure. So I really didn't have the brace itself for a long time, and I feel really lucky about that too, because there's people whose like spinal curvatures are bad enough to get a brace when they're really young, and they have to wear it the entire time they're growing. And I sort of got it when I was finishing up growing. I did end up growing like a tiny bit more, but it wasn't anything worth keeping me in the brace for. That's my scoliosis story. Everyone has a different story when it comes to scoliosis. Some people have a super mild where they just sort of, it's nothing, they just get it checked up every once in a while, which is like how mine started. Some people have a back brace, some people need to get spinal surgery, which just sounds horrible, but I'm so grateful I don't have to do that. And to everyone out there who does, and to everyone out there who has a lot of back pain, I'm thinking about you and praying for you, because that's just no fun. Like, the brace itself is not fun, but it's definitely manageable. I want to stress that too. This is not meant to like scare anyone or make people stressed or worried about having to get a brace or having a brace, because it's definitely manageable, and it's definitely not, it's not something that will limit you in many ways. It may in some ways, but not in every way. So I would just say scoliosis, the experience is definitely varied from person to person. And that was my story, my experience. I can't believe it's been like 3 years since I've gotten it off. It's kind of crazy to think back to like the whole experience, because it was a little bit of a trying time as a 13-year-old, I guess I was, right? So yeah, so that's my story. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have scoliosis or you know someone who has scoliosis, let me know in the comments down below, and I'd love to talk about it with you guys, because we need to stick together, and it's just fun to sort of like share different experiences with things that you can relate on with other people. Definitely let me know. I would seriously love to talk to you guys about that. And also let me know if you'd be wanting any more scoliosis related videos. I could do like war or things that made me feel more confident. Just let me know. I would totally love to do one of those. That would be so fun to like do more of these videos, but just let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in. And that's all. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!